is it worth starting playing Rise of Kingdoms in 2025? Shappy, I want to hear your initial thoughts.
Oh man. Yes. So I think it's worth starting Rise of Kingdoms at this point. I think I would start Rise of Kingdoms with eyes wide open if you're going to start it. I think when I downloaded Rise of Kingdoms in 2019, I naively thought, "Oh, this will be a fun game, it's no biggie. I'll just play and do whatever." Rise of Kingdoms, A, costs a fair bit of money, and B, requires a lot of time. Um, a lot of time. And I think that most people who start the game end up burning out and quitting really as a consequence of something like that. Um, Not to compare games, but I just started Age of Empires recently, mobile. I know you started it too.
Mm-hmm.
I log in twice a day, maybe. I don't really actively send out gatherers more than once or twice a day. That's it. There's no farm accounts. There's no concept of farm accounts. It's a little bit more expensive, but to be honest, I've not felt really any impetus to spend beyond like $15 a month. There's no such thing as gem supply. You just kind of play the game. Um, I think with Rise of Kingdoms, there's a lot to it. There's a lot in the game, but boy, you're making a commitment when you start the game. If you think Call of Duty battle passes or Fortnite battle passes are rough, just wait till you start Rise of Kingdoms.
And I feel like it wasn't always like that. Like, yes, there was always spending involved for a lot of players, but the concept of crystal technology is really what ramped that up. And kind of like we said, like the Battle Pass or Call of Duty, Fortnite, whatever kind of game you're playing where it's like seasons, it's an interesting concept where you spend money on crystal technology and then it goes away. And so at the end of that KVK, it's like if you spent $100, if you spent $20, whatever it is, like that money's gone. Like you used it for the 2 months that you played KVK and you're never getting it back. It's gone, poof. And so that's one consequence of, being a spender in this game, is that if you get into a KVK and you max tech and you spend a ton of money and then your enemies don't show up, you just spend money for no reason whatsoever. It did not benefit your account in the long run. All you did was spend money on a temporary service that is going to go away. You don't get it back. So I feel like that's one hesitancy that a lot of people bring up when it comes to starting this game, is like just the consequence of spending money on crystal technology and not stuff that stays long term. Now, looking at other things, like looking at daily special offer to get new commanders, looking at supply depots, the 30-day gem supply, like you said, those things definitely do stay with you, and those can be very beneficial, especially the super value bundles. These can be extremely beneficial for your account. But like, I think the biggest thing that people complain about is the crystal technology. And when you look at the early game, you don't have that. And so when you first start playing, you don't even understand the concept of why people are complaining, because you don't even have the ability to spend in crystal technology yet until Season of Conquest. Now, granted, they brought that to Season 3. Is there crystal technology in Season 3 now, or is that just the commanders available?
No,
Do you know?
Season 3 is still light versus dark.
Okay.
But I think at the same time, right, there's the spending on the crystal tech, but I also do want to give Lilith some credit, because 6 months ago, if you asked me, like, is now a good time to start Rise of Kingdoms, I'd be like, absolutely not. Right? Because there were all of these issues where you could jump back to Season 2 and you could
Mm-hmm.
totally disrupt everything, and there was no commander refund. So if you screwed up, you were SOL. Like, Lilith has done a lot of work to make it better. So, like, if you wanted to start today, I'd say you could. Um, that said, I do think, and yes, they've done a little bit better, and you just brought it up with the whole Season 3 thing. If you're a smart player and you watch YouTube videos, you're not going to do anything for the first 2 KVKs. You're
Mm-hmm.
literally just going to hoard your gold heads, and then as soon as Season 3 comes around, you'll invest in one of the good commanders. I think they've kind of messed up that whole starting experience a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you said is true. Like, people that watch our YouTube videos, like you and I both made videos on this, like don't don't spend your resources and speed ups on KVK 1 and 2, because it's not worth it. Like long term, it's way better to hoard your sculptures, hoard everything, wait until Season of Conquest, and then invest in the best commanders in the game. And I don't know if they're going to roll out more of those swap events for newer players. I feel like they should, but it's going to be really hard to maintain players that have already done it and then players that haven't done it. Because, you know, if you started today, you have no idea what the swap event is because you just started. You didn't know it took place 2 months ago. Whereas for us, like, we were able to take a commander we weren't even using and then invest in another commander. So like for me, I invested in Gonzalo, so now I have a ranged March. I also invested into Ragnar Prime. And so, or sorry, not Ragnar Prime, I invested in Arthur. Ragnar Prime I invested into sculptures, but Arthur I also was able to max out. And so I do agree that they have made a ton of huge steps in the quality of life updates in the game. I think that's made it a lot easier to say, like, yes, I'm confident that if you were to start today, you would have a good experience. And like I said, like you said, 6 months ago, that answer might have been different because it's like there's so many issues that they're still trying to work through, and they're starting to address those things finally. They're listening to content creators. They're taking our feedback. They're taking our audience's feedback, they're taking surveys, and they're implementing these changes in the game that are all quality life updates. And I definitely think that's a huge step forward. Would you say that the early game has been better off without that migration, or do you think it's still kind of a slow part of the game where you're just waiting for Season of Conquest?
I think both. You know, I think you'd see a lot of people fall off when season 2 rolled around because you'd get people who'd migrate back, and even the whales, right? The early game whales would get screwed over by the people who migrate back. Whereas I think that's not happening anymore. I do wonder though if you are seeing a fall off as soon as you enter Season of Conquest. Because like even my kingdom, I'm in 3265. Our natives are really slacking in terms of like commanders and equipment and all that good stuff compared to someone like me who's been playing forever. I'm in that same kingdom. It's a younger kingdom, and these are the kinds of problems that we're facing. So, you know, it's interesting. I think there's still a little bit of work to be done.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting when, like for me, when I migrated to 1846, there's players that are, you know, they start in the 1846 and they never left. So they've been there for years, many years. And it's interesting to see that because they've stuck through the thick and thin, staying in the same kingdom, which is kind of crazy. I wish I had that because I've lost so many resources migrating. It's not even funny. But I would agree. I think limiting the migration back to KVK2 and allowing the newer players to actually experience KVK2 is very good. However, I think the jump like migration projects can also influence the game very negatively because you have players that know exactly what to do. They watch YouTube videos, they understand the concepts of the early game, they understand how to overthrow a kingdom with a ton of people starting at the same time. Do you think that they should try to get rid of these jump groups, or do you think these are somewhat beneficial to the game?
Oh man. A lot of people like jumpers. And I think the reason that a lot of people like jumpers is because they get bored. I don't think anyone's doing it because they really want to start over. I mean, maybe they do and they drop their old account and they migrate it back at some point as a farm. But I think a lot of people are doing it because they're bored and they want to do something more exciting. I know Oppo's putting together a huge jump group. If you guys want to learn about that, go check out his Discord. Um, and I think that's fun. I think where you do run into trouble is less about the jump, but more about these people who come in and they poach these kingdoms that just come into season 3 or just come out of season 3 into Season
Mm-hmm.
of Conquest. Because then you do really end up with people coming in and overthrowing king and taking over, and you kind of get like this bad piggy situation.
I do
You don't
remember
hear
that.
about it all that much, but it happens. King Schmuck has been making videos about it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. If you guys are unfamiliar with is it Bad Piggy, right?
Bad Piggy and King Schmuck, both are the drama creators.
Yes. Yeah, if you guys are unfamiliar with them, I would highly recommend to go check out some of those videos. They're very entertaining. They took over kingdoms, and you know it's sad because I've been on the receiving end of that, so I know how much it sucks. And it's easy looking at from the outside looking in and being like, oh man, yeah, that sucks. A ton of people got their accounts destroyed. But I've been on the receiving end of that, so I understand the point where you're like, oh well, I just lost everything. I'm gonna quit now. And so that aspect of jump groups and taking over kingdoms, I really don't like, because it does ruin the game for a lot of people. And I remember like when there was a jump group of mostly Korean players that migrated to my kingdom 1812 when I first started playing the game, and they took everything over. They zeroed every single account that wasn't in their group. They had like 3 Krakens, and they just zeroed everything. And I almost quit the game. I was like, well, I have no troops. I don't know what to do now. And thankfully the game actually gave me like a migration thing, because I was still kind of learning the game, and it gave me the ability to migrate my account. So like, oh, I can do that. I can just find a new kingdom and find new people that aren't gonna destroy my account. And so it like that was nice. But knowing that other people get their accounts destroyed in the early game, I think there is still a lot of work to do. But if you are somebody that is considering doing a restart or considering starting the game, if you're someone that doesn't even play Rise of Kingdoms and you're just watching this being like, oh, maybe I'll check out Rise of Kingdoms and see if I enjoy it. I do have a ton of beginner guides that you can check out on my channel. My best performing video is actually a beginner guide on gaining power and starting the game. So if you are somebody that is trying to get into playing Rise of Kingdoms and trying to figure out how to get started, that is a great video to check out to really set yourself up going forward. But Shappy, if you were to tell somebody that's thinking about starting playing Rise of Kingdoms, what is your top thing that you absolutely love about the game that keeps you playing 5+ years down the road?
Oh man, I think it's the community, and I think it's that the game continues to grow. That's what keeps it interesting for me. I think, especially as a content creator, I'm always looking for new opportunities to see things that are growing or approach things in a different way, especially given that when you're in the off season, things can get a little slow. I think that's what keeps things exciting. If they stopped innovating, or if something happened to the community, I would be really bummed. But I think both of those things really make this game special.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the community aspect is something I always bring up. I made a video not too long ago about why I still play the game, and that was my number one thing, is I love the community aspect. Almost even more so with the content creators. I feel like content creators for Rise of Kingdoms, all the sponsored ones, are extremely supportive of one another. It's honestly very, very refreshing, considering we're all kind of competing for views on similar topics. Everyone is very supportive, and in every single kingdom you're going to find friends. You're going to find people that you enjoy talking to. A lot of people are very active in Discord as well. So, you know, I'm still talking to people that I'm not even in the same kingdom as, like Shappy, for example. We still talk almost every single day, even though we're not in the same kingdom. And so I think the community aspect, if you are looking for a game that is going to help you build and foster a community that you're going to make very, very good friends in the game, it's a fantastic way to meet new people. And honestly, migrating to new kingdoms, it's the same thing. Like meeting new people in new kingdoms is another reason why I continue to migrate. And I'm very happy in 1846, but I'm still friends with people in 1079. I'm still friends with people from my previous kingdoms. I think it's just honestly a fantastic game from the community aspect. I think them making continuous changes to the game as well and listening to player feedback is huge. Kind of like we talked about earlier in the video, the different events we're coming out with, the different quality of life updates, just making things easier for us on a day-to-day basis. It definitely makes a huge difference, and it shows that they care about us as well. But that is going to wrap it up for today. We are going to be joining Shappy's live stream here now. So I'm going to be rating him. I will attach this in the video as well if you want to check out our continued conversation. We're going to be talking about hot topics in Rise of Kingdoms. So if you guys want to stick around for that, I am going to pass this off to Shappy, and we are going to go ahead and raid his live stream. Shappy, are you ready?
Yeah, we're live. Hop
All right.
on over.
All right, we are going to hop over to Shappy's account. I appreciate all of you guys for being here, and I'll see you in a second.